Good afternoon, everybody. Bobby Cleveland, Oklahoma Corrections Professionals Director, and along with Representative J.J. Humphrey. J.J., it seems as though we've got more today to talk about than we could ever get through. I don't know how this keeps just building up, but J.J., I now read where the director Harpe, he's gone out and he's been going taking a whole entourage with him, going out all over the country, which they ought to be here taking care of business. We had another inmate die, was killed yesterday, but he's going to some organization. Do you know anything about it?
Bob, that organization I think that he is going to. Now, I don't know when's the last time he took a trip on it, but I know he was bragging about joining it, if I'm not mistaken, and that was the Vera Law Institute. The Vera Law Institute. Now, I don't know much about it, so we kind of had people, we had some people talking to us about it, and I've looked it up, Google it a little bit. I encourage everybody to go out, pull it up, because Bob, when you look and see that Kamala Harris was the top donor,
Oh yeah,
do you really need anything after that? I mean, Bob,
no,
if you look on there and what's that? Uh, Tashid, Rashard Tashid, or what's her name? That lady in the squad. You know
the
what I'm
Muslim
saying?
lady. Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Yeah. There you go. Two donors. Her and Kamala. Go look down that list. They're all donors like that.
I don't understand why he has to go all over. Why he needs to, or what's he trying to prove, but going all over the country with a whole entourage of people when our prisons are in a mess, a complete mess. We've had more people. If you want to talk about the top 10 things he's done, one of them would be
Bob,
more
Bob,
inmates have been killed under
hey,
him.
top one, hate Bob and JJ. What do you want to bet? Top number one thing that Harp has on his list of things to do is try to take out JJ and Bob. That would probably be. I mean, I swear, I bet that he devotes 50% of his time just to go down. Director, stop hating on us. We don't hate you. We just are against what you do. We don't hate you. We don't hate you though. I have
Well,
said some dirty things, which I apologize for when I've said them. But Bob, why would he go out? Here we are, a republic. Oklahoma, 77 counties vote for Trump. Okay.
yep.
Now, if you look, old Drummond, who, and now it's coming out. I get tickled how old Drummond, Trump. Now it's coming out. Oh, he donated to Biden. That's coming out big time against him, and now it's going. But here you have Governor Stitt who appoints Hart, and it's
A
Trump.
liberal.
Trump. We love Trump. We're trying to be like Trump. And yet you go over and you appoint Harp, who is not Trump like, and he goes out to all of these things like this. And I mean, this appears to be a very, very puke liberal. This is the kind of stuff that Elon Musk, we need to send this and go, Elon, check this one out. Check this one out. Because they're getting a bunch of money. Where's it coming from? And when you see a bunch of money coming into a liberal group with Kamala Harris's name on it and Tashid Rashard or whatever her name is, Tabish, whatever her name is. When you see names like that, big red flags. What is our, agency director going up and hanging out and getting in and then bragging about it like he don't even know Google exists. Like you ain't gonna be smart enough to look up and see that wow, our director just joined some liberal puke group and he's bragging about it. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know why he can't brag about staying here and going to the prisons, visiting
Bob,
our prisons.
Bob, so we're talking about visiting prisons. Bob, he's making a deal right now, and we've talked about this a little, but I don't think people appreciate this. Bob, he's negotiating a deal to buy Lawton. for 314 million. Everybody pretty much knows that. Bob, I went around and talked to the legislators. It amazed me. The Senate kind of knew a little bit what's going on. The House, they don't even have a clue what's going on. None of them know. So I don't know whether they're visiting. Here's what Harpe does, because Harpe thinks he's a little better than most. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so he goes in and visits the speaker or the budget chairman's. That's kind of the level he thinks everybody else on. The fact that you're an elected official, you're a little bit below him. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You're not, unless you're the speaker or you're the pro tem or the budget people. We don't need you. I don't talk to you. Yeah. I answer to the governor. That's his attitude, or that seems like it to me. I don't know if you get the same.
Well, I tell you this much: if we had a decent governor, if governor wasn't his buddy saving him and turning his head on all the crazy things he's done to our prison, he would be without a job.
Well, let me predict something. I hope you listen up, Director. Listen to this. I'm going to predict that Lawton is your Waterloo. I'm going to predict when you try to get the money, and you're going to put us, you played this game to where you're going to not give the legislators a choice, because when you say that you're going to release 4,500 the inmates, the legislators ain't going to have a choice in this deal. But here's what's going to happen. You think you're pulling a little slick one, and I've already went around and told every one of these legislators, the day that we have to give you the money, the only thing that we ought to have in that, if we have to give that money, is we ought to say you don't get the money unless you fire Director Harpe. If we have to give this money, and I'm going around the Senate, I'm going around the House saying, if this happens, then you ought to fire this man, because he's not giving you any alternative. And Bob, I mean, me and you are about as active in trying to find out stuff going on in corrections. And you haven't, and I haven't heard, or you've kept it secret. You may be like them. You may have kept it secret. But I have not heard you talk, and I have not talked about Hinton. Nobody's even mentioning Hinton, and that contract's coming up. Nobody's even talking about it. There's 2,300 inmates, 2,200 over there, I think. And nobody's even mentioned that. We're talking about Lawton, 314. But what happens if that deal blows? What happens if the legislators do actually hold and say, we're not giving you the money? What's he going to do? Because I'm betting Lawton. I mean, they badmouth them. Who goes out and badmouths the people you're going to have to sit down and? Are you going to start cussing them when you know a year later you made a year contract?
How many people do we have at Lawton? 2,000?
Roughly about 22 or 2,300, I believe. But Bob, I'm thinking they've been dumping. I've been yelling this for quite some time. They're dumping all of these mental health inmates. And I think they did it purposely. I think they did it to make it look like this thing's out of control. And again, Bob, you know, we had this murder at Allen Gamble. And hey, I told a couple of people that there were 2 murders. I was wrong on that. If I'm wrong, I get to come up and say I was wrong. I got confused on some ways that we were talking on text and stuff. And so anyways, it wasn't 2, it was 1. Now, you know what's funny about that death right there, Bob?
What?
You remember about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, a guy got his head cut off at Lawton.
Oh, yeah.
And that was one of these mental health. That's what made me think about all this. That was mental health. They're dumping these severely mental health on Lawton, which ain't handling it. I mean, they're not set up to handle it. And then you have an incident like that, which I think they did intending to set up stuff like that. I don't think they meant to get anybody's head cut off. You know, they didn't purposely say that. But they sent folks down there that they knew are going to cause a problem intentionally to set it up to cause a problem. That's what it appears like. Now we got Allen Gamble, which is a nightmare in by itself. Nightmare. And now we have this guy killed. But all of a sudden, man, my phone's getting lit up on this guy getting killed at Holdenville. and nobody said anything. I was talking to a legislator yesterday and said, well, that guy got beheaded down there. What are you talking about? I said, dude, you ain't heard that they cut this guy's head off down there? No, man, there's no way. Yeah, there's a way. I mean, and it's just blowing my mind, Bob, that how, and that's what that guy had come by. Did you hear somebody got killed at Hodeville? And I'm like, yeah, I heard that. Did you hear about this guy getting his head cut off? No, I ain't heard nothing about that. How does that happen, Bob?
I don't know, but we've had more homicides under Harpe than we probably had since the statehood.
I wouldn't doubt. I wouldn't doubt it at all, Bob. I'm marking the angle that I think they're covering up half of them. We know that they're covering up these rapes. We know that they're falsely and fraudulently changing the paperwork. And Bob, you know what? You usually hear me say alleged. You usually hear me say we think, we've heard. I will go out and say I'm pretty certain that I'm very, very certain that they have knowingly changed paperwork, intentionally changed, put.
Well, didn't they do that on Ross?
What's that?
Didn't they do that on Ross?
Well, what they did on Ross, what I'm alleging on Ross is that they intended to write him up. So the guy who killed him, so the inmate that they put him in cell with killed him. What if you look at that whole entire investigation, what you see is on the very last sentence, they were going to give him a class. I can't remember whether it's X3 or 3X. I can't remember how that goes.
Yeah.
But it's an X3 write-up for killing another person. Well, when I saw that, when I saw that, I said, how in the world can you even have a write-up for killing another person? You know what we call that, Bob?
I'd say we call it murder.
Very good. It is murder. It is murder, and you file that in the county. Now, if you don't want everybody to know that you're having a murder every time you turn around, then you do a Class X3 write-up, and you just keep it in-house. Now, I go and ask a very, very knowledgeable person that has been over all of that kind of stuff, and they say, you don't do that. You don't do that because that'll mess the criminal case up, because when you go in and file murder charges and you have that, then somebody's going to be able to argue, oh, they've already been tried on that because y'all filed this and you took away their good time, or you did. So they've been punished on it. Guess what? Clouds the murder charge. Now, I can tell you on Ross what I did, Bob. I saw that very, very early. I saw that. So I sat on that for roughly from the time I found out, and I sat on that for another month. So about 30 days. Okay. And so he was killed on the 12th of September. I think on the 19th or 20th of October, somewhere around that, I wrote and said, can I have the documents on this case? So I wrote in and said, can I have the documents? Guess what? 2 days later, roughly 2 days later, I think it was October 21st, they filed murder charges. Now, they can say, oh, we were going to file murder charges anyways. We were already going to do that. I think it looks pretty dang odd that I request the paperwork and 2 days later you have charges. And what took 40 days, why did it take 40 days to get it happened on the 12th. You turn it in on the 22nd of the next month. What takes 40 days to write up when it's 1 million? There's only one other guy in the cell. What takes 40 days? It don't take Sherlock Holmes. And they didn't even investigate the other aspects. This is why they should not investigate themselves, Bob. Because there are rumors about somebody else killing and they take him in that cell. I don't know that that's true. I don't even prescribe to that, okay? But the deal is, you should do a proper investigation to shut all that up, to make sure everybody knows. Now, the other thing is, was that young man put in that cell because somebody was pissed off at him? Did they put him in there to get him raped and get him beat? Now, that's more impossible. Now, that I would subscribe to and think that ought to be checked out, okay? But did they check it out? I highly doubt that they checked that out. Did they check out, Bob? We could go back on our podcast. We can go back. This is the easiest pipe. We want to do this. We could go back and look at, because we go back and look at September 12th of last year. And then we could say, what was the following Friday? What was the next Friday? Because guess what? That's when we would have done OCP Live.
Yeah.
And what do you want to bet? Either that Friday or the following Friday, but one of those just right after that incident happens. What do you want to bet that me and you are on OCP laughing about an officer going by a cell, the cellie saying, my roommate, my cellmate is dead, and they kept right on walking, finished count, went into the control office, sat down, and then went, oh, hey, that guy out there said that somebody killed his cellie. Another officer went out there and checked, and guess what? The guy's dead. Now, when you look up how they wrote this up, and it's the same murder. It's the same case. I know it is. I know it's the same case. And what do you want to, you go look, and they say, well, I walked by there, and he called me back, and I went back there, and I checked, and he's dead. No, that ain't what happened, and that's lying on a report. That is lying, and it's a murder case, and I'll bet it does come out, because I've told too many people I think it'll come out, and they have absolutely perjured themselves. Everybody on that has perjured themselves, trying to cover their butt. I get covering your butt, but there's a time just say, and Bob, I think the guy that originally went down there and found him is now transferred. And I wonder if that's part of that. There's a lot going on there that we need to continue to investigate.
Well, we were trying to think about the top 10 things that Harpe's done. I guess you could say he put his record down because everything he's done is history for. I hope
he's number one on the numbers you don't want to have. Governor Stitt, we're going to be top 10. No, he got it wrong. He's bottom 10. He's in the bottom.
Well, you take a look at stabbings. We have a stabbings there, every day. Assaults on staff. They never quit.
Bob, I would never see that. I would have never, ever in my life dreamed that the assaults on staff and telling them not to report it, that's shocking to me. Even on a Harpe level, that is shocking that they would come in and tell, don't report it, cover it up, lie about those numbers, and not go after inmates who assault. They should be having charges filed against those people.
Well, and then you take a look at when he was sending Tommy Sharp around to talk to all the shock callers about what they're going to do. They're going to be running the prison. There's just so many things that has transpired in our prisons that shows he has no idea what he's doing.
Yeah. Bob, and the fact that you send one of your top people around to talk to inmates instead of talking
top people got fired by Director Crow covering up a murder.
Yeah, I mean, he lost his job. They brought him back for an auditor. And again, I always like to say, I've always liked Tommy. I don't have a problem against Tommy, but the facts are the facts. He got fired for not doing his job at OSP. It involved a murder. It involved there were several things that just happened right there. The drugs put in the person, the sexual assault on the lady that they tried to cover up. There was some drugs got lost out of the evidence locker. There was one thing. It was bam, bam, bam. All that happened. He got fired. They brought him back just a short time later to audit. How do you send a person who got fired around other prisons to tell the other prisons what to do when you got fired for not doing? And again, I like you, Tommy. I mean, I really do. I like you as a person. Every time I get on here, I say that, and Bob, I've always said that because when he was down here at McLeod, he was just a really nice guy. I liked him. But the bottom line is now you've got this guy who lost his job because he couldn't do it there at McAllister, and now he's going around telling others, and now he's meeting with inmates, not staff, inmates on how to run the prison. Now, when you start meeting with the the residents of the facilities instead of the people who are supposed to be running the facilities, then you've lost control. You know, Bob, I've said that on here a whole lot of times. You know what a riot is? You know what a riot is? Just down, if you just put it down to,
Under whose terminology?
well, not under them. They call it a group disturbance. But for me, a riot is when you've lost control of your facility.
Yeah.
When you've lost control of your facility. Bob, they've lost control of the Department of Corrections. They've lost control of the whole thing. You're under a perpetual, hey, here's a new word for you, Director, perpetual riot. You have a perpetual, widespread, systemic riot going on throughout your department.
Well, there were so many things that came out when we asked around, carrying a gun in the prison, from that to
he did get caught carrying a gun inside the prison. He got caught leaving his gun in there while he let inmates work on it.
That shotgun.
But now the best, he is the number one shot at shooting floors. He can hit the floor. He's number one in that. Let's not forget. And here's the issues I have with that. I'm not really big on, you know what I'm saying? After I made fun of him for doing that, man, you want to talk about making sure my gun. I was like, you're going to make fun of him and then you're going to have something happen to you, But here's what's funny, Bob. Anybody could have an accident. I know other people that's had accidents. They owned it. One, they owned it. They didn't try to cover it up and blame it on other people and try to fire people because they had an accident. Two, they followed the policy after they did it. Yeah. You want to see a real leader? Real leader is people who do the job, not titles, people who do the job. And you know what? I asked to see, did he take a drug test? You know what I'm saying? How does a public agency, the director, have something like that, and the guy who was correctional committee chairman wants to see, did you take a drug test? Can I see where you were qualified? Can I see that you went through training? Can I see these things? Bob, to this day, I don't have one thing that shows that man was qualified, that shows that he had authorization to carry that shows he took a drug test, that shows he went back and took remedial training. Nothing. You know what I'm saying? So he's above the rules. He'll fire somebody. And Bob, you'll remember, I got a pretty good memory for stuff like this, Bob. You remember that they were having a religious ceremony there in the prison, and one of the correctional officers was stationed in there to watch them. They had some outside pizza brought in for this religious event, and those inmates in there offered to share their pizza, which was brought in from outside. They offered, hey, officer, you want some pizza? And that officer had eaten like one piece of pizza or something, and they were trying to fire that officer for that. Do you remember that, Bob?
I remember, yeah.
Because that was about the same. Why I remember that was the same time. So here you have a guy who discharges a weapon, which would have probably got most people fired. He leaves his gun in the vehicle. So it's not one incident with the gun, it's two incidents. And then he carries the gun into the prison. Anybody else that was working for him would be fired like that. And yet he doesn't even answer. And then he has the audacity to parade around in his little uniform like he's some, colonel or excuse me, general. Sorry, director. General, 5-star.
4-star general, 5-star, 6-star.
He's 5-star. I'm surprised he hadn't raised himself to the rank of 6-star. You know what I'm saying?
He may have.
Hey, I gave him an ideal. He's gonna add a star to his array.
Here's the thing that really concerns me is I read things that he says. He writes down things he wants to do, and it's always really good. Oh, he's changing everything, where they're doing, treat the inmates better, doing all this different things, going to be better to the employees. But he doesn't do that. He's nothing. He writes good and he has sounds good, but he doesn't do it. Now there's a word for that, and I can't remember what the word was.
Well, Bob, hold on. I'm gonna read. I'm gonna read you something that somebody had sent me, and it was really good. Let me find it today. Okay, it says a narcissist. A narcissist is what we're talking about, Bob.
Okay,
is a person of many words initially, but never a person of their word. So get that.
That's true. That's
true.
A
person of many words initially, but a person who never is a person of their word. They don't keep their word. Not a person of their word. They will paint the future you've always dreamed of. They will paint the future you've always dreamed of, but deliver a nightmare you must recover from. But deliver a nightmare. So let me read the whole thing. Is person many words initially, but never a person of their word. They will paint the future you've always dreamed of, but deliver a nightmare you must recover from forever recover from.
Does it have Harpe's name down at the bottom of it?
It had his picture back, Bob.
Well, I tell you, it's you can sound good, but what was it? Someone said what's some things that sound good are always not a sound good reason.
Well, Bob, but here's the deal: when we talk about painting that picture, man, they come in. We're going to be top 10. Man, we're going to do all this AI. We're going to use technology to move us in. You know what, Bob? Technology is great. The things that he's talking about, I have no problem. But technology will not replace people on this thing. Yes, you can substitute a little bit. So yes, if you had something that could help us identify people and make sure that everybody's in their cell, that would be cool and might help keep, you can do without one officer maybe. But what if they're not in their cell? Is it going to go find them? Is it going to go look under the bed? Is it going to go look in around the compound? What's it going to do to find cell phones? What's it going to do to find dope? What's it going to do to break down the Aryan Brotherhoods and the Bloods are fixing to stab everybody? What's it going to do when they do get stabbed? Okay, those are human crises that require human activity, human interaction. And you are not going to, yes, I'm all for putting AI and putting these things in there within reason and within cost reason. And the other question is, here's another thing I got a problem with him, Bob. You don't ever see, what is that cost? And used to, Bob, before he was over in OMES, when he destroyed the entire state. Let's get that right. Director, you didn't just screw up the corrections. You've done a hell of a job screwing up corrections. Let's give you, you're number one for the biggest screw up, okay? But you didn't just screw up corrections, because let's just give you full credit. When you were at OMES, which is why you got your butt kicked out of OMES, okay, you were a big screw up, because guess what? He screwed up merit protection. He's the owner of screwing up merit protection. What is that? Work day that has the whole paycheck screwed up. That's another Harpe thing. Guess what? Your POs and everybody, when you watch when he was in there, guess what? They quit using POs. They quit doing the bidding process. That's when everything went off the rails. They quit every agency. It is not just DOC. Guess what? I turned in a bunch of stuff on the medical marijuana. Same thing. No POs. You can't. We're going to do, and that was one of the things, was doing business with DOC. And you can't see, okay, y'all made this transaction, but there's no PO.
What is that called? That makes all the furniture stuff? What?
Yeah, OCI.
Yeah, I think OCI, if I'm not mistaken, they had a bunch of invoices that couldn't back up.
16 invoices on OCI, up to $1 million with OMMA. And guess what, Bob? Here's the problem. You do an invoice, and let's say it's $100,000. Okay? There's an invoice that we got furniture for $100,000. But did you get the furniture? Who signed for that furniture? Did they get it? Did they actually send it over here? Or did y'all just say that and y'all put $50,000 in your pocket? That's why we have POs. That's why we have purchase orders. So we know who said it was here. This was sent. We received it. It was here. Here it is. Checked off. We can go back and we can follow that. Guess what? Under Harpe, that all got thrown out. Guess what? When you're looking at like investing with other private companies, guess what? You're seeing much more of that. That started right there. He has been a disaster. A disaster. And again, I mean, we're just going on little bitty things. We're not talking about his big barbecue fiasco. We're not talking about COVID fiasco, ARPA money fiasco. We're not talking about all that. Where's all that money I turned in? I don't know how much on COVID going, under him. So, again, that was his job, is to make sure none of that happened, but he didn't do it. So again,
this is what's very interesting. He's got all these problems. They're huge. Our prisons, we don't have enough people. We're having to transfer people around to go make people work at another facility that they don't want to work at. They're just one thing then another that's wrong with the Department of Corrections, with what he has done. But yet he has time to take an entourage and go out and travel all over the United States with these different groups, trying to get some type of a title.
Well, Bob, he's trying to set himself.
He can't even take care of the prisons here in Oklahoma.
Well,
we
Bob,
have lost more inmates from murders through drugs than they've ever lost in the state of Oklahoma, in this statehood.
But Bob, what he's using, he knows his time's limited as director. He knows that. When his daddy's gone, he's gone. He knows that. He knows he's a punk. He is 1,000% a stick punk. He knows that. And there's a whole lot of stick punks up there, okay? And they know who their daddy is, and they know the minute that somebody else comes in. And again, they're very liberal people. That's what's amazing. And so again, here's what's going to happen. He's trying to set himself up, going to these big groups, these big high-funded paying groups, and he's going to try to establish, or that's what it looks like to me. I can't say what he is.
Well, that makes sense. He's trying to make him think he knows what he's doing.
Well, he's trying to make
look at what really is happening in Oklahoma, they'd be shocked. And if the governor would take a look at it, he'd be shocked too when he could find out what's going on. Not enough people.
Here's the deal. I used to think that, Bob, the governor's got to know. The governor can't be that stupid. Governor's got to know. I know the governor knows because I've wrote him about. I figure when the governor gets my letter, he just throws it in, and that's why I write it through the media all the time. I write a letter saying Humphrey sends a letter to the governor, and the reason is because that way he can't ignore it. He's got to know that I sent that out there, and he knows it. He's just as responsible as Harpe. He come out talking trash on Lawton. The governor did that, talk trash on Lawton. They got a year contract. They knew that year would come back around pretty quick. What did they do? What plan have they set? They got no plan that I know of. If they do have a plan, Bob, they're keeping it top secret. This is a state agency. Yes, you can keep little information secret so that you can do a contract. I understand you can't put out stuff but you need to have a plan, and you need to be letting legislators know that if we don't get this, so the details of the negotiation, yeah, you keep that into the leadership and everything else. But the idea that here's what we're doing. We're negotiating $314,000. Here's what we're going to do if we get this bot. Here's what we're going to do if we don't get this bot. That's public information, and that's doing your due diligence. And they try to keep it all secret, and they're a public agency. And that's
how many times do you think he's been to Lawton facility checking it out?
Hey, Bob, that man is negotiating $314 million for a facility that he's never walked into. Now, he's went to he went to a board meeting not too long down there. And to the best of my knowledge, now I've tried to find out, I don't know, but I'm pretty certain. So I'm going to go out here and say, and if I wasn't pretty certain, but I'm going to say he went to that board meeting and he did not go into that facility. He went to the board meeting and left. He never, so to my knowledge, in 3 years, that man has not stepped foot in one of the biggest prisons he has in the state, and the one that he's been calling out, and all the him and the governor called it out. They have not stepped foot into it, and now they're sitting over and negotiating $314 million. Bob, you're a businessman. Now, here's the claim to fame that Harpe that he uses. I'm a businessman. We're getting rid of the old government idea, and we're bringing business principles, businessmen coming in here and doing this. Bob, you've been in business. Would you buy a $314 million building and not look at it?
Oh, nobody with any chance to do it.
Here's
the time, fine-tooth comb and to take a look at it. But
Bob,
here's the deal, though. Go back to his that Vera in program, whatever it's called.
Justice.
What is it?
It's a Vera Institute of Justice. Hey, hold on with that thought, though. 1 second, Bob. I want to ask you a question, though.
Yeah.
If a company, a legitimate company, was going to buy a piece of property, would they not look at everything? The plumbing, the doors, they would have it surveyed. They would know if somebody's got their foot over across their line or a building on them, or you know what I'm saying? They would look at every detail of that. Yeah. They would look at the town and they look and see how many employees can we have, and the whole 9 yards. Guess what? They ain't even stepped foot in the facility. Bob, that's unbelievable. Now go. What were you asking about Vera Institute of Justice?
Well, the one thing that gets me about that was Kamala Harris, who you got here, that is one of the major donors. And I don't know if he got hot for Kamala or what the deal is with him, but most people would shy away from her.
Well, especially in today's political environment. And why are we seeing somebody who is tied, at the hip with Governor Stitt, tied at the hip with Governor Stitt? But what's he doing? He's running out to institutions like this, Kamala, the squad, all of that. And guess what? Bob, the minute I looked at this list of people on there, I don't even need to look at anything else. But I am looking at how much money, man, it's millions and millions that they're getting. And again, what are we seeing?
Maybe he sees the chance to make some big money.
Well, but Bob, we're seeing right now with Elon Musk looking into all of these things. And guess what kind of things we're seeing? It's these little programs like that, 89 million, 100 million for these do nothing, idiotic, ignorant ass programs where they got everybody on the tit. And guess what? Here he is. He's like a tick sucked in. He's going to get right there and get his, and that's what it looks like. Now he may come out and say, me and you are crackheads, and here's why he needs to be in this. Okay, that's fine. But I can't see. I've been in corrections for 35 years, Bob. I've been around it a little bit. I know of no worth that this thing's going to bring to you to go and hobnob with a bunch of Democrats and a bunch of liberal pukes, and you're going to go out there and hobnob with them. What's that going to do for the state of Oklahoma? What's that going to do for the Department of Corrections? And again, Bob,
how does he have time to do that with our system being so out of control? He needs to get that in line first. He's been doing it now almost, I guess he's going on 4 years, and it's worse. We don't have enough officers. We're getting rid of nurses.
Yeah, Bob, my thing is, what do you think? What level do you think correctional officers are right now? Do you think they're at 50%?
No.
Think they're 40?
Maybe.
Here's the deal, Bob. I don't know. I'm going to tell people we don't know, but I would not be shocked if you walked in here with somebody we could believe, because we sure don't believe his numbers, but if you walked in here and said the actual number is 35%, I wouldn't go, I don't believe that. It can't be that low. I wouldn't.
I believe it.
I'd be like, wow, okay. And again, who knows? Who knows? And Bob, how do you buy a prison? How do you buy Holdenville? 1,700 inmates should require somewhere around 250, 300. I think 250 is really low. 300 correctional officers, probably. Okay. How do you purchase that and go down on the number of officers you require? So you buy a prison that ought to be 300. You're sitting at 1,700, and yet you go down to 1,500. We only need 1,500 officers. Well, how does that work? Because you just bought a prison that should require you to go up, not down, but you dropped the number almost as much as what you should have went up. And then you claim we have 80% retention rate.
I don't think that's quite true.
Well, here's why I say 30%, Bob. This is why I say 30%. You cut by half, and then you drop 20%, and that's what you actually got. You cut by half. This is DOC fuzzy math. You have to stay up. You got to understand fuzzy math. So you cut by half, because that's a half. We drop it down, and then we say we're 80% there. Okay, so you drop another 20%. That puts you about 30%. So that's what I'm laughing, going, that seems crazy. Humphrey, that's crazy. You can't. Okay, all right, maybe crazy. That's crazy math. But Bob,
he can say, well, we're still running the prison. There hadn't been any riots. But what there has been a lot of people have been attacked by an inmate.
If you go down to Allen Gamble and you meet the Aryan Brotherhood and the Bloods to say, we're meeting y'all on how we're going to run this prison, you do not talk to the staff, then guess who's in control of that prison? Those prisoners are in control. When you leave your doors open for those two groups of prisoners to freely roam around while the rest of them are locked up, you leave your doors open so those two groups can openly run around, then guess what? They're in control. When your officers are attacked and those groups won't let you come get your officer. Now, that's what I was reported happened. I don't know.
I heard the same thing.
I'm just telling what I heard, but that the inmate said, nope, you can't come in and get these two officers. That's called a hostage situation. When I worked there, now I don't know what pretty words okay will come up. Kay, come up with something really pretty on that. A delayed response. I think I'll help you out. Delayed response is what a mutually delayed response. How about that? Anyways, that they had a hostage situation, inmates controlling, hostage situation, officers down, officers hurt. Anybody else, that's called a riot, except for them. They call that the group disturbance with a delayed response involving officers. Unattended. Or was that attended? Would that be attended or would that be unattended, Bob?
It'd be, I don't know.
But it didn't happen at the hospital, so I guess that'd be unattended.
Yep.
Or I don't know.
What's happened there, we don't have the guards. We don't have enough people to go around making their rounds. And these guys could beat up another inmate, beat the crap out of him, kill him. And right there, plain sight, but they don't have anybody around to do it. They don't have anybody at night. Enough people there to run it at night.
Well, Bob, when you see people, when all these things happen and they continue to have, count and they're not doing count when all this stuff, if this person's missing, if a person's tied up for 6 hours in gang rape, they're not doing count. You know what I'm saying? They don't have enough people to do their duties, their job. And now they're going to go, oh, we're going to go in and we're going to get AI and we're going to put all this and it's going to be super because now it can do the count. Okay, I have no problem with technology. We need to beef up our institutions. But how about having a place to keep the inmates? How about being in control of the inmates? AI ain't going to get control of the inmates. Bob, you can put all the AI in there you want, but somebody's got to go in there and say, you get back in that cell right now, and if you don't, we're going to lock you up. And again, we got to get back control. And he ain't got no control. He has never had control. He has been.
They came in and didn't know anything about corrections. Hey, how long was it? How long did it take in the past for a guy, say, to make a deputy warden? Get shifted.
Here's the deal. When I was in there, you did not make lieutenant unless you probably had 7, 8 years. You would get, captains 8 to 10, and a lot of people wouldn't get captains till they're 12 to 15 or something. And then, deputy warden would generally be somebody who was degreed, who, generally come in and started as case manager or corrections. A lot of people started correctional officer, kind of like myself. You start as cadet, you go to correctional officer, you promote. I promoted to probation. I had an opportunity to go back in and go to work as one of those positions, and I chose to stay where I was at. But, generally you got 10 years. You got 10 years experience, Bob, then you're pretty, you've seen most of the things that's going to come along. So any of those positions should be requiring, 10 years. And again, used to those positions, a lot of them would either be you had a lot of experience or you had a degree in experience. And so, again,
a cafeteria worker made her a warden.
Oh, that's what I'm saying, Bob. And I have no problem. Those cafeteria people often are no corrections. So we have great cafeteria people, but generally you're not going to consider that a move to corrections because, again, you're not managing staff. You're managing inmates when you're in there. So, again, usually what you're going to see is somebody on that level will move to a say unit, correct case manager, and then move on up or something like that. You don't generally see a bounce from kitchen to deputy warden or warden because it's really a kind of a different, But again, I mean, if the person had a lot of experience and they were the right person, maybe. But again, what you're seeing, Bob, you're not seeing one thing like that. You're seeing a systemic, you're seeing all over because, Bob, if you'll remember, we were helping, I can't remember what case it is, but anyways, there was a lieutenant that we were trying to help or something. And I asked that lieutenant, I said, how many years you got in? And it was 3 or 4, and they're lieutenant. And right after that, I started asking everybody, like deputy wardens and the people we work, how many years you got in? Hey, some of these people have 2, 3 years and be on those kind of positions, and you're just going. And here, Bob, let me also say this: it's not only that they're moving up that quick, but what that shows you is even in that 2 years time period, they're not working under people who were there 10 or 15. When I was there,
you don't have that long-term guy that knows how.
Absolutely. You know who I learned from? I didn't learn from school. I learned from, Lieutenant McKnight, Wayne, and all of these, man, I can just go through my whole list. Captains, man, like my captain, he'd been military. He had been out there 14, 15 years. My lieutenant, same way. Guess what, man? When something went down, the way I would handle, I'm ready to go. I'm ready, like, let's go out here and get, JJ, hold on, do this right here. Man, they solved the problem, my cat. You know what I mean? That's when you learned. I went, oh, my way would have been bad. Follow what Lieutenant McKnight says, follow what Captain Rimber says. Deputy Warden Moon, okay, you know what I'm saying? These guys have been around, and and everybody I had up there, the whole institution where I worked, most of those guys were, like seasoned people. And again, it showed. It showed. And then they take you under their wing because you're the new kid. And man, they would just, there wasn't a whole lot of screaming and hollering and it was just like, hold it, hold it, hold it. Do it this way.
Well, JJ, I want to talk a minute about mediation that we have here under Harpe's.
That's called no mediation. That's what that's called.
And it's just another way to spend money to cost taxpayers money and cost OCP money, because they never negotiate. They just say, "Hey, we're not changing our mind." That's what it is.
Well, Bob, I mean, here's the deal: the whole system is blowed up. We've got a bill right now trying to get officers so that if we have CLEAT certified officers, because anytime you have a situation that it requires arrest, you can't just simply go in there. So we're trying to get it moved back into merit. But guess what? It ain't no different if you're down there on a run and you have a correctional officer down there having to take somebody into custody or get dope or have a fight. They're into the same thing as CLEAT. So here's what I'm saying. Ain't no difference if CLEAT certified, not certified. I'm dealing with 1,000 criminals down there, and I'm down there on one of them runs. It's the same difference. Why should I support the bill? Because I believe that bill is going to open the door to get our people under that. And we tried. Hey, I want y'all to know we did try to get you under that. I mean, I fought for you. Okay. But at the end of the day, it's just, and again, I'm going to blame this totally. I'm telling the truth, Bob, totally on Harpe. Who destroyed merit protection?
He did.
Harpe did it. And we tried to stop that. Me and you both fought that, went to the people who
they lied to us on that deal.
We agreed, and we were stupid and let them lie to us. I'll own that. I fought, and then they said, no, we're going to give y'all a voice. We're going to let y'all help write this thing. All right, I'll vote for it. I voted for it, stupid me. And so, again, but Harpe was the father of that thing. He bragged to me about I'm the one come up with that. Yeah, you did.
And nobody likes his civil service. And guess what? He has people over there telling the legislators, the senators, oh, they want to keep it. That's really good. They want to keep that. They want to keep it. They don't want to go back to merit protection.
They're getting their butt beat, and now they're wanting to even change. So here's what's funny. They set the rules. You ever played with somebody?
He doesn't care if they're getting his butt beat. It doesn't matter to him. It matters to him how much money that's costing the OCP. That's all it's all about.
You ever played games with somebody and when they're losing, they go, oh, change the rules. We're going to change the rules.
Yeah.
We're going to do it this way. And then they continue to get beat. Oh, we're going to change the rule. We're going to change the rule because that's Harpe. Harpe's like, no, Bob, you only get one. We're going to get 5. And now we're going to play with your 1 and 5. And then you win. Bob, we're going to give you a half, and we're going to get the other half. We're going to play now 5. We get 5.5 cards, and you get a half card, Bob. Now see what we're going to do here. That's Harpe. That's Harpe all day. Get losing, and they're losing, and then appealing, costing the state money, going outside and getting. And Bob, I've called over to the AGs. How many attorneys have they hired? How many of them can't get an answer? I'm going to have to go do it for you on that. The whole deal is corrupt, Bob. The whole deal is corrupt. And it's just unbelievable. But the thing about it is, Bob, we're looking at people getting murdered, the Allen Gamble thing. We're looking at more assaults. We're looking at more assaults on officers. We're looking at shortage of staff. We're looking at him negotiating a prison that he's never stepped foot in, that he doesn't have, to my knowledge, and what I'm hearing from all the legislators, he does not have the financial support. So how do you negotiate to purchase a place that you don't even know that you got the money? You don't even have, he's over there negotiating something that I'm being told he's not going to get the money to negotiate. And then he ain't even been in the prison to negotiate. And during all of this, he's running off with Vera Law Institute to go, oh, look who we are. Look at what we're doing. Oh, we're getting AI. We're getting Vera. Oh, we're doing all this. Aren't we lovely? And everything's falling to hell. And he's over here bragging about how great he's doing. Now, I think I've got a pretty good handle on the situation. Would you agree with what I'm saying? Or
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But a social staff is just crazy. I've just never seen it like this, where these guys are so disrespectful. But you know, when we have a prison, yeah, they're there to be punished. There's no question about that. There's some that need to be punished, and that's there to be punished. But also, we need to be doing things to help them get out of prison.
hey, Bob, speaking of going to prisons and out of prisons, I do want to say that there's a bunch of rumors because we try to address things on here. Man, we're trying to keep y'all informed as best we can of what we hear. And so we were told that officers were taking inmates to Lawton and we're told they can't come in. I got a report of 5 inmates that they said can't come out. I did some checking. Lawton is under DOC's control. So anything that is being movement of who goes what. So if that's not on Geo's side, that's going to be on, the state side. And people were trying to say, well, there's a measles outbreak. To my knowledge, there's nothing. And if inmates are being turned away or inmates are being kept from going, that's going to be a DOC thing and not a Geo thing. That's a DOC thing. To the best that I've tried to check around on multiple people and ask that to the best of my knowledge, that is correct. That DOC controls the movement because they're DOC inmates. Now that's what I'm
okay.
told. So just wanted to make sure we clarified all of that. Bob,
what else you got? We got 1 minute.
Well, Bob, I'll tell you what I've got is we've said this, I think, the last 2 weeks, is that when I sat down and you sat down to talk about, because me and Bob get together and what are we going to talk about this week? I forget. We get so many things going that I forget what we're going to talk about. And when we get on here, it's unbelievable. You look up and an hour's gone, and we could talk about much, much more. Yeah. We could drill down on these murders. We could drill down on the assaults. We could drill down on this Vera Institute. I mean, we've looked up a lot of stuff. It's a hinky little deal. You know what I'm saying? And we got people telling us all about it. So again, Bob, we're only hitting the highlights. We're hitting the highlights, and we're not drilling down deep in to really just talk about how bad this stuff is. So he's got to go. Harpe, you need to go. It's time for you to go.
Well, hey, I appreciate your help and appreciate all the things you do for the state of Oklahoma, for the people of Oklahoma, and we'll see you next week.